You know, we start out most interviews by playing a song from the artist you're about to hear, but in this case, I thought we should start out with this.
You know, when Deborah came out, then that was like, okay, there's somebody getting recognized, a female vocalist from Canada. I think this is possible.
That is the Canadian R&B diva Julie Black, taken from a chat I had with her recently. And when I asked Julie about the local singers who inspired her when she was coming up, the Deborah she's referring to in that clip is multi-platinum, multi-Juno, Grammy-nominated singer Deborah Cox. Now, if you're Canadian and a 90s R&B fan, you probably remember the splash Deborah made with her self-titled debut in 1995 with hits like Sentimental and Who Do You Love? Her sophomore follow-up One Wish with the record-breaking Billboard #1 single Nobody's Supposed to Be Here, not to mention her many chart-topping dance remixes, a career that spans almost 30 years. Deborah Cox has made a name for herself as a renowned singer and performer on the charts, the stage, on the big and small screen. Lately, you can catch her in the acclaimed TV series Station 11 on HBO Max. But it is such a pleasure to welcome Toronto and Canada's own Deborah Cox to the show. How are you?
Hi. What an amazing introduction. It's interesting to hear all of that in retrospect.
Well, sadly, we're out of time for the interview now.
That was a good one.
Thank you. What did you make of Julie saying that about you there?
Wow, it's really intriguing. You know, I didn't realize the impact that I've made on some of these artists because they seem so self-assured and in their own artistry. So I'm surprised to hear that. That's wonderful. I think as an artist, you know, back then I was, a struggling artist. I think it was really more about just trying to, stay continue to hustle, continue to, break barriers and do things that haven't been done. And I wasn't really thinking about the impact of that and what it would be on other people or how it would impact other people. So I'm really flattered by that.
Did you have local singers you could look up to, like the way she looked up to you?
I think because I was so busy with bands and doing session work and singing backgrounds. And by that time, the time that I was really grinding was when I was working with Celine Dion. That was really the time that I really saw what the impacts of fame and celebrity and just discipline and hard work, what that can do for your career if you're willing to make the sacrifices and do what it takes to get there.
But you were working way before that, right? Like by 12 years old, you were singing commercials and jingles. Do you remember the first time you sang for an audience of people that you didn't know?
The first time was my first professional performance was at the Blue Note. I remember my mother had to write a letter to the manager of the club to let him know that it was okay that I could perform in the show with the band. I would not, be mingling with anybody else. I would literally go from the dressing room on stage back to the dressing room because it was a passion. She knew that this is what I wanted to do, and she made sure that, I had the means to get there. And that was the first time.
How did you feel?
On Abbey Road. I was so nervous because I remember hearing rumors that, one of my favorite all-time singers was performing there and starting her career. I found out that Whitney Houston had done her show there. I remember just thinking about that going, oh my, wonder how she felt. Because, it was a very intimate club. So you could literally see people's faces. You could see their reaction. You could almost see them breathing. You could feel their emotion when they felt the music. And I'm very sensitive to that. I'm very aware of that and in tune with that. So if I see your face while I'm performing and you have this expression of love, then I'm going to want to sing more. But if I see anything else, it can be very distracting. But I remember all of those feelings as I was singing the songs.
Okay, take a listen to this. Deborah, you are making my day. You're making my year here by singing along with that.
Yeah.
That is
Love can move. Yes.
That's a little bit of Celine Dion singing Love Can Move Mountains live at the inaugural celebrations for U.S. President Bill Clinton in 1993.
Yes.
Why am I playing that for you?
Oh my gosh, why are you playing that for me? And how did you get that recording? Wow.
The CIA. I'm with the CIA. I don't tell many people.
Yes, you
that.
must be, because we didn't have the internet back then. So you have some hookups.
That's you, right? That's you singing backups.
I remember always restraining myself from wanting to sing more, because that song is love can move mountains. It's got a soulful thing. So I remember we would only have to sing love, move. Do you know what I mean? Like certain words. And I remember just wanting to sing more. But we had to, when you're background singer, you play your part. And I remember distinctly that song, because it was one of those records that I had to really hold back from that, wanting to really do the gospel thing on it.
I didn't know you were a backup singer for Celine Dion starting out.
Ah, you didn't? Well, yeah, I did a year with her. And we did a lot of shows, both in Canada and in the US, from the Arsenio Hall show to Jay Leno, to the inauguration of Bill Clinton, to just all over the place. I remember working on the demo, LaSalle's and I working on the demo tape and gigging. And so we'd fly back and forth, and any opportunity we had to meet any kind of A&R exec or record company executive, we'd give them the demo.
I heard that Celine takes great care of her voice on the road. Did you see any of that?
Absolutely. Really disciplined. I think that's where I saw firsthand what discipline does.
What do you mean?
When you rest your voice before interviews, when you don't talk for hours, which was very hard for me at the time. You can't sing at the top of the Eiffel Tower and joke around and then expect to do a show the next day. You'll lose your voice, which is what happened to me. And it was really scary. And I learned through that experience that you have to really be disciplined about your, warming up and, right. Just how you take care of yourself.
Did you have did you have the chalkboard that says like I'm on vocal rest that you had to wear around and all that kind of stuff?
I would write it down. I would, to let people know. That came later, but it was still very, very difficult to try to figure out what the regimen is, because I was singing so much. I was gigging, I was doing sessions, I was writing songs, and we were doing our own demos, and we're also touring and flying everywhere. And so it was a very busy time to try and figure out all those things. But by having her as an example and seeing and watching her do, it made an impression.
So you're singing backup for Celine Dion. Things are going pretty well. Then you make a pretty pivotal career decision that could have gone either way for you. What was that decision?
To leave this well-paid, extraordinary opportunity. I came up in a time where if you were able to make a living doing music, you were dope, super dope, like super bomb to be able to, do session work and sing backgrounds. And I mean, I grew up watching and admiring all the great background singers as well, the legendary people behind the scenes. So I came up as a musician, singing in bands and doing all different types of music. So I literally left a very well-paid gig to take off and take a chance on myself and my own talent and go out on my own, And that was very scary.
And to move to the U.S.
Yes. And not letting the rejection discourage me. I let the rejection fuel me. I let that inspire me, and I let that motivate me to go to where the love would be. And that was at Arista Records. And when Clive heard the demo, he took a shot, took a chance.
The rejection you're talking about is you were rejected by every Canadian label.
Yes, sadly I was. But there was no real infrastructure back then. The early 90s, we didn't have, there was no there was no radio that played R&B. There was no radio. There was no real support infrastructure. Like I say, I mean, these kids don't get it now because they see Drake, they see all these great, you know, international artists that have made their mark with R&B and rap. But listen, R&B was not able to sustain itself in the early 90s. That's real talk.
Yeah, I heard a story that someone told you that, hey, you sound good, we like your voice, but we've already reached our quota of R&B singers.
Yes.
That's a real story?
Yes. Yeah, back then you had, I don't know, I think maybe there was a quota for the labels back then to only sign a certain amount of artists. And I was told that we have our quota, we have someone like you, we have someone doing that style of music already. Like it just seemed like there was no room for me to be the kind of artist that I wanted to be. And that was discouraging. But like I said, I feel like if the opportunity had happened there first, perhaps maybe the whole story would be very different, you know, because at the same time, there still wasn't any real infrastructure to play my records, you know?
And as you mentioned, things really take off really quickly after that. You get the attention of the legendary record executive Clive Davis. I mean, this is the guy behind Whitney Houston and so many iconic singers. You signed to his label. The rest is kind of history. I mean, just take a listen to this.
That's the only time I get sentimental. Yeah, that's the reason why, baby, I can't let go of you. If you really don't want me, if you don't want me, if you don't need me, if you don't need me, if you don't love me, then who do you love? Can't be read, 'cause I'm still in love with you. Ooh. How did you get here? Nobody's supposed to be here.
If you're just joining us, I'm Tom Power. This is Q. You're hearing a taste of why my guest is one of the greatest R&B singers ever to come out of Canada. Sentimental, Who Do You Love? We close it off with Nobody's Supposed to Be Here. That song held the top spot on the Billboard R&B singles charts for 14 weeks in a row in 1998, a record at the time.
Yeah.
How did that song come together?
Wow. Shep Crawford and Montel played the song, and I fell in love with it instantly. I fell in love with that song instantly. The minute I heard, how did you get here? It was like it was speaking to me. The song was speaking to me. Like, how did, after all this time, you find me? You are the kind of music that I want to sing. And that resonated with me. And I knew instantly that that was going to be the song that was going to change my life, which it did. And, it's crazy. And I'll tell you the story. It's like, I'm a very spiritual person, but there was a time that was also a very difficult time because financially there wasn't a whole lot going on before that album. And we're like in between albums trying to figure out live shows and that kind of thing. And I remember praying like for a life-changing song, like literally those exact words.
Really?
And yeah.
And you knew it.
So, yeah. And that was, and I knew it was just like, this knowing, that little voice inside that says, this is the one. And I knew it. And that was the song.
I mean, it's lasted right until this day. And Nobody's Supposed to Be Here is a song on the list of all-time ballads for a lot of R&B fans, thanks in no small part to this part right here.
But I turn around and you're standing Nobody.
20 plus years later, and that still holds up. In fact, about a year ago, a bunch of singers from Melanie Fiona and Lizzo to Keke Palmer to Avery Wilson participated in the viral Deborah Cox challenge, where they attempted to sing that run. Before we get to that, what do you remember about singing that part of the song?
Woo! I remember feeling the spirit. I remember the essence of that song was church. I remember that I was literally mentally in that place. That song described my situation and how I fell in love with my husband and my songwriting partner. It literally just kind of came out of nowhere, like, oh my God, how did you get here? I've been here this whole time trying to figure out love and life and everything. And he came along and you know, just took care of my heart, took care of me, took care of my mindset and protected me. And so that song really resonates in many different ways. I just also remember the session was like, I mean, I think that was the first track, the first vocal. I would go in and I'd sing maybe 3 or 4 leads. Clive would want me to sing like 25 leads. But this one, I pretty much nailed it on the first take. If you talk to Shep Crawford, who produced it, he would tell you the story.
Well, A, that's amazing. And B, I can't imagine doing that more than once either, you know?
Right, there you go, exactly.
And what did you make of the Deborah Cox challenge? Like, and who do you think did it best?
Oh my gosh, I don't like that question because can't nobody do it. I mean, look, everybody has their own way of doing it. And I think what was really entertaining for me was the fact that it was a challenge. Like, really? Of all songs? Because it just seemed like, you know, some songs you don't sort of, you know, I don't know. I thought it was really, again, flattering that people thought that vocally it was a real challenge to do and to emulate. And I guess, but again, you know, as somebody who's in it, I'm like, I have blinders on, so I'm not really thinking about all those things. But it was really funny to hear all the different variations and versions, and then there's little kids singing it, and then grandmamas playing for it, their kids and aunties, and you know, it was quite the frenzy. It was fun.
I mean, you were singing along with it while we were playing it, and I gotta say, you can still do it.
I can still do it. It's so funny. People always ask me, like, are you going to change the key? No, I'm not changing the key. That is like that song is like in my DNA. So I don't hear it in any other key either.
Yeah.
It'd be very difficult for me to sing it in another key. You know, I would just revert to the original. So I don't fight it. I just go for it. And if there's certain notes that can't come out that day, then that's what it is.
I know a highlight of your career was meeting and working with Whitney Houston. The two of you did the same script, different cast together. Later, you did the Bodyguard musical. We also heard your singing voice in the Whitney biopic in 2015. I wonder if you have a Whitney Houston story or a sort of a cherished memory you might want to share with us.
Yeah, I have a lot of them. One of them I'll share with you was when we were in the studio doing same script, different cast. It was one of many sessions because we had to reschedule a few times because she was on a cruise with Bobby Christina having fun. So we're like, we're not going to interrupt that. You need to have those moments with your child, you know? And so I remember we were in the studio, like, you know, very close like this, and she just kept cracking jokes and making me laugh. I'm the kind of artist that when I get into that laughing fit, it takes me a long time to stop laughing and get serious to do the session. So I really remember more about her jokes and just how funny she was, just like things she'd say, or she'd imitate people. She liked to imitate other people. And she was so funny. And those are the moments that I remember the most about recording that song and feeding her the lyrics. The I know, and she, oh yeah, that's right. I know he's leaving me for you. Who said that? It was really like a conversation, me feeding her some lyrics and her telling me, okay, I got it. You know what I mean? Like imagine you like in the ring with Muhammad Ali or like chilling with Bob Marley or something. You know what I mean? Like it was that kind of moment for me.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking here is that like this all sounds very exciting. And you're not the first person to tell me that side of Whitney where she was so funny. And I mean, I think that was a side that a lot of people didn't get to see, but I'm also thinking about you, just what's going through your head of like
deer in headlights, trying not to stare. Like like when I met Michael Jackson and I literally stared.
What did you do when you met Michael Jackson? Where was this? I don't know.
I just stared. I don't even remember what I said. Same thing with Prince. Same thing with Whitney, Prince, and Stevie Wonder. My first initial meeting, it was just I couldn't say anything, and I don't even remember if I said anything. I was just staring. So I did stare at Whitney for
just trying to touch her face and make sure she's real.
For what felt like a half hour. Like I was doing all of that inside. She has a very, very powerful presence and aura.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you meet people and they just have this energy about them, that's what she had. And so you just kind of straighten up your back and you kind of, act right. And she had that very much so. I know
it's lovely to talk to you about Whitney and, the influence she had on you. And at the beginning of our conversation, I played a clip of fellow Canadian diva Julie Black talking about the inspiration that you and Tamia were for her when she was starting up. But I wanted to go back a little bit to that rejection we talked a little bit about earlier that you faced from the Canadian music industry in your career. I'm curious how you felt about the Canadian music industry once you achieved what you ended up achieving.
Oh, well, I think when I think about my years in Toronto and Scarborough and Flemington and all over downtown Toronto, I think about those were my formative years of learning how to interact with an audience, learning how to be in control of my craft. All of those clubs, Queen Street, the Bamboo, on Church, all the clubs on Queen Street, the Macombo, all of those clubs were the real learning. That was like the college. That was my opportunity to learn stamina and learn stage presence and all those things that are kind of difficult now to learn if you don't have the opportunity to do it in front of an audience. You know what I mean? It's a very different scene now. And especially with social media, it's a whole different industry. Yeah. But back then you had to, really know your craft and know your instrument. And Toronto really allowed me and afforded me that. And I think sometimes when you go through the fire, pardon the pun, you have to go through some challenges to really know what you're worth and to know what you really, what real stock you're made of. And so it made me tough. Those rejections and those no's, they all just motivated me to go, to just keep going higher and higher, as far as, showing, I needed to show people that there were no limitations to what I could do. Yeah. And that I could do all different styles of music too. That was another thing that I pride myself on.
But there was no part of you that was like, hey, I just had like a big number one and set a record for R&B number one. I'm singing with Whitney Houston right now, and you rejected me. There was no part of you that was a little like that.
There's no part of me that's at the time when I was 19, 20. Yeah, I felt like that then. Yeah. But after being with a label that understood my artistry and understood me, then I felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because you don't want to be with people that don't get you. I think that's the worst thing, is to be in a place where you just feel like you're fighting all the time. You're like fighting to get your voice heard, And And then at the time too, it was just like, well, you know what? There's no stations are even playing my, R&B or the style of music that I want to get into anyway. So why would it happen here first? It took me going away to really be able to articulate that to the industry there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this was before Flow. This is before Black commercial
This
radio.
was before Flow.
Yeah.
Like, this is why people don't understand. They see things now and they see the success now. And they go, well, why didn't? It's like, no, you don't even get it. There was no Flow. Like you said, Flow. I mean, I remember the fights just within the industry there of wanting to have a station that played and supported Canadian music, first of all, and then Canadian R&B music. There were all these different conversations that were happening at the time on trying to figure out how to do that. And that takes time, and it takes a real army of people that believe and that are continuing to fight. And thank God people did, because we have some incredible artists today because of the foundation that was laid. I consider myself one of the pioneers, and that's what you go through. You dig the trench for everybody else to walk.
I think everybody would
Right?
consider you a pioneer of that scene. How do you feel about Toronto's R&B scene now?
It feels good. I mean, now it's so rich and so beautiful to see all these different styles of R&B, to see all these different styles of rap and soul music. To see my influences were, Whitney and Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight and Stevie Wonder. Now this new generation, they're not listening to all that, I don't think, or I don't know if they're exposed to it, but to know that my name has come up in some of those, in the circle of artists that are influencers, it's amazing.
If you're just tuning in, my guest is Toronto's own, Canada's own, Deborah Cox. So far we've talked about your career as a singer, but you've been acting on the big and small screen for a while now, going all the way back to Love Come Down with Lorenz Tate in 2000, more recently appearing in the TV series First Wives Club with Jill Scott. Are there things you learned as a singer that helped you as an actor?
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of songs that I've sung that I've never been through. So it kind of helps you to, invoke the emotion that you need. And I've kind of learned how to do that just instinctively over time and over years of singing different types of music, different styles of songs. So yeah, it does help. And acting is very therapeutic.
Therapeutic?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It helps you to kind of get out some emotions and feelings that you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to in music.
Right.
I've found it very therapeutic for me. Some of the roles that I've played been very cathartic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're yeah. So you're telling me that there are times where you're on set and you think and you're acting as something. You're angry, you're pissed off, you're sad, you're crying, and you go, I am finally getting to act like this because I feel this way, but I can't be this way in my real life.
Yeah, I think that in some there are times where it is literally that. Like you can't just if you're like really upset about something, if I'm really upset about something, I can't just pop off. Yeah. I have to be mature and be, a certain way about it. So as an actor and in a part, it's easy to play that role, and I get a chance to do that, which is fun,
Of course, people can catch you now on the sci-fi series Station 11, based on the best-selling book by Canadian author Emily St. John Mandel. This post-apocalyptic story centering on a ragtag group of musicians and theater performers doing Shakespeare year-round for the survivors of an apocalypse.
Very hard to describe to people when people say, so what is Station 11? I'm just like, just watch it. And if you don't get into it after the first, few episodes, then it's not for you. But it's very hard to explain to people. You have to just watch it to understand the tone of it.
I mean, but not only is it really good, but it also seems to something about drama at the end of the world is hitting, I think art at the end of the world is hitting home during this pandemic. Has working on the show made you think about the pandemic differently?
Yes.
Yeah.
This time last year, we were doing the show. We were filming, and it was just like, life imitating art this time. And it was very interesting how art sustained us all. The music sustained us during that scary time. And I remember leaving the condo to go to set after being just so isolated and feeling so alone. To go to set to film, it just was like, revival. Like, just, it was great to just be around people. You know what I mean? Even though we had our masks on and we were taking all of our, the right precautions, and, all of their, there were tons of restrictions, but just to be around other people was just like beautiful.
Yeah.
And this show really describes that feeling and puts it on the screen in front of you so you could really articulate it, because it's very hard to articulate this time to our children, who will never know what it was like before. Like, I'm talking not kids like the teenagers and stuff, but some of the younger kids who they'll never know what the world was like before, pre-pandemic. We all know and have our memories to fall back on, and we let those moments fuel us and give us inspiration. But for some of these people who, only know isolation and only know, certain things, it's going to be, it's just going to be a very different way of communicating.
You've been really generous with your time and telling us your story. I want to get your reaction to this next phrase I'm about to say to you.
Okay.
The gift will make room for you.
Mm.
What is the significance of that phrase to you in your life?
The significance of that phrase, that's a loaded question, because I feel like all my life, I've had many moments where I wasn't necessarily the best dancer or the best actor. I was the best singer, though. But I feel like...
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I feel like I've come into so many moments where, my talents have given me opportunities. And then those opportunities led to meeting different people that were able to change the trajectory of my life and my destiny and my career, and, I feel like that really speaks to my journey. That has been my journey, because I've, I grew up listening to all these different styles of music. And that's what's helped me be a great interpreter of different styles. Not necessarily always the best, but I know how to do what I do because of the gift that was given to me. And I've used all of my gifts. I've used, my talents as a dancer, and I've used my talents as an actor, and all of these different talents I've been able to use, and they've just put me in the rooms of some great, great people. Yeah.
We've only barely scratched the surface of everything you've accomplished on your journey. But when you do look back at everything you've accomplished, what are you most proud of?
Musically, or like in my career?
Whatever you want.
Life?
Whatever you want.
I think I'm most proud that I have my family. My family, my husband, my children. I have my lifeline, my backbone, my career is great. And I've had so many great accomplishments there, and so many moments that people, a lot of people think that winning Junos and Grammys and all those things are what motivates me, but it's not. It's really being able to share music with the world and having that opportunity. And I have had that opportunity. It's not about all the accolades. It's just about my pure love of music and enabling me the opportunity to share and sing and perform all over with people. And then I can come home and have fun with my family and do other things and have other interests.
Yeah. Didn't Whitney encourage you that way? Didn't she say something to you about that? Like you got to have that family.
Yeah. Yeah, we were at the session and she was just like, "We getting married? Like, what you do? What y'all doing? You guys together? Yeah, you know." And I'm like, but I'm looking at her, staring at her, and thinking, but you have it all. You are, you're the epitome of the amazing vocalist. You're at the time she was married to Bobby, and they seemed, like it was a very beautiful, loving relationship. And we had Bobby Christina, and it just seemed like she had it all, And so I was just like, yeah, that is what I aspire to. And she was just like, go for it, do it. Don't wait for the next record. Don't wait for this industry. Go and do it. And that was like, yeah, you're right. You can't wait for the right time, the perfect time. Just go and do it. It all works itself out at the end of the day. God figures it all out for you.
Deborah Cox, what a joy it is to get to talk to you.
This is great.
About your career and everything you've done and the impact you made on this side of the border and everywhere. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Deborah Cox is a Grammy-nominated, Juno Award-winning, multi-platinum selling singer and performer. She's also an actor who you can catch in the TV series Station 11, which is airing now on HBO Max and on Crave in Canada.